My wife is not the woman I used to know. She let the fame get to her. I'll never forget the moment I realized my wife, Lisanne, wasn't the woman I used to know. It was a Monday evening, and I had just come home from work. As I walked through the door, I was greeted by the sound of her laughter echoing through the house. But it wasn't her usual warm, genuine laugh. It was forced, almost theatrical. She was on a video call, surrounded by makeup and fancy clothes, things that never used to matter to her. "Martin, come say hi to my followers," she called out, waving me over. I awkwardly approached, plastering on a smile. "Hi, everyone," I muttered, feeling like an outsider in my own home. Lisanne had always been the down-to-earth type. We met in college, bonding over our shared love of hiking and simple pleasures. She never cared about social media or the superficial aspects of life. But things started changing about a year ago when she began her fashion blog. At first, it was a fun hobby, but as her followers grew, so did her obsession with her online persona. It wasn't just the excessive time spent on her phone that bothered me. It was the way she changed, becoming more superficial and distant. Our conversations were now filled with talks of followers, brand deals, and the latest trends. I missed the deep, meaningful discussions we used to have. One night, as we sat down for dinner, I tried to bring up my concerns. "Lisanne, don't you think you're spending a bit too much time online? I miss the old you," I said, my voice laced with frustration. She rolled her eyes, a gesture that cut deep. "Martin, this is important to me. Why can't you support my passion?" "It's not about that. I just feel like we're drifting apart," I replied, hoping she'd understand, but she didn't. Instead, she brushed me off, diving back into her phone, leaving me to eat alone, the silence between us deafening. A few months later, Lisanne's blog took off in a big way. She landed a major brand deal with a well-known fashion company, and her followers skyrocketed. She was ecstatic, and I tried to be happy for her, but the distance between us grew even more. One Friday evening, we were supposed to have a date night, something we hadn't done in ages. I made reservations at our favorite restaurant, hoping to rekindle some of the old magic. But as I waited for her to get ready, I noticed she was live streaming again, showing off the outfit she planned to wear. "Lisanne, we're going to be late," I reminded her, trying to keep my irritation in check. "Just a few more minutes, Martin. My followers are loving this," she replied without even looking at me. When we finally got to the restaurant, she spent the entire time taking pictures of her food, barely speaking to me. I felt like a prop in her life, something to enhance her image rather than a partner. I tried to engage her in conversation, but she was more interested in her phone. "Lisanne, can we just have one night without the phone?" I pleaded. She looked up, clearly annoyed. "Martin, this is my job now. You need to understand that." "I understand, but what about us? What about our relationship?" I asked, my voice rising with desperation. She sighed, putting her phone down for a moment. "Maybe you're the one who needs to adapt, Martin. This is who I am now." Her words stung, and I couldn't shake the feeling that I was losing her to a world I didn't belong in. Things continued to deteriorate between us. I found myself resenting the person Lisanne had become. The final straw came when she started hanging out with a new group of friends, all influencers and social media stars. They were always around, filling our house with their fake laughter and shallow conversations. One night, she invited them over for a party. I had just gotten home from a long day at work, hoping for some peace and quiet. Instead, I walked into a scene straight out of a reality TV show. Lisanne was in the center of it all, basking in the attention. "Martin, come join us," she called out, but her invitation felt more like an obligation. I tried to be polite, but I couldn't stand it anymore. I needed to talk to her, to make her see what was happening to us. I pulled her aside, my patience at its breaking point. "Lisanne, we need to talk. Now," I said, my voice trembling with anger. She looked at me annoyed. "Can it wait? We're having fun." "No, it can't. This isn't you, Lisanne. You've changed, and not for the better," I said, struggling to keep my voice steady. Her eyes flashed with irritation. "Martin, I've told you. This is who I am now. Why can't you just accept it?" "Because I miss the real you, the woman who cared about more than just likes and followers," I shouted, my frustration boiling over. She stared at me, her expression hardening. "If you can't support me, maybe we shouldn't be together." Her words hit me like a punch to the gut. I couldn't believe she was willing to throw away everything we had for this shallow world she'd immersed herself in. After that night, things were tense between us. We barely spoke, living like strangers under the same roof. I knew something had to change, but I didn't know how to reach her. One evening, after yet another silent dinner, I decided to confront her. "Lisanne, we need to figure this out. I can't keep living like this," I said, my voice heavy with exhaustion. She looked at me, her eyes filled with a mixture of sadness and defiance. "What do you want me to do, Martin? Give up everything I've worked for?" "No, but there has to be a balance. We need to find a way to make this work, or we're going to lose each other," I pleaded. She was silent for a moment, then nodded. "All right, let's try therapy. Maybe we can find a way to understand each other better." I agreed, hoping this could be the turning point for us. We started seeing a therapist, and at first it seemed like it might help. We talked about our feelings, our fears, and our hopes for the future. But as the sessions went on, it became clear that Lisanne was more interested in defending her new lifestyle than in finding a compromise. One day, after a particularly difficult session, I found her in the living room, scrolling through her phone as usual. "Lisanne, do you even want this to work? Because it feels like you're not really trying," I said, my voice breaking. She looked up, her expression tired. "Martin, I love you, but I'm not going to change who I am. This is important to me." "And what about us? Aren't we important?" I asked, desperation seeping into my voice. She sighed, setting her phone down. "Of course we are, but you need to accept that this is my life now. If you can't, then maybe we need to rethink things." Her words hung in the air, a painful ultimatum. I knew I had to make a choice, but it felt like either option would tear me apart. The following weeks were a blur of confusion and heartache. I spent countless nights lying awake, replaying our conversations and trying to figure out what to do. I loved Lisanne, but I couldn't stand the person she had become. I missed the woman I fell in love with, the one who valued our relationship more than her online presence. One night, as I sat alone in the dark, I made a decision. I couldn't keep living in this painful limbo. I needed to confront Lisanne one last time and be honest about how I felt. "Lisanne, we need to talk," I said, my voice steady but filled with emotion. She looked up from her phone, sensing the seriousness in my tone. "What is it, Martin? I can't do this anymore. I can't keep pretending that everything is okay when it's not. I love you, but I don't recognize you anymore. You've let this fame get to your head, and it's destroying us," I said, my heart aching with every word. She stared at me, her eyes filling with tears. "Martin, I didn't mean for things to get this bad. I thought you understood." "I tried, Lisanne, but you've changed so much. We've lost who we were together," I replied, my voice breaking. She was silent for a moment, then nodded. "Maybe you're right. Maybe I've let all of this get to me, but I don't know how to go back. Maybe we can't go back, but we can try to move forward. We need to find a way to reconnect, to remember why we fell in love in the first place," I said, hoping she would see the truth in my words. She looked at me, her expression filled with regret. "I want to try, Martin. I don't want to lose you." We agreed to take a break from social media to focus on each other and rebuild our relationship. It wasn't easy, and there were times when I doubted if we could make it. But slowly, we started to find our way back to each other. We went on hikes, talked for hours, and rediscovered the simple joys that brought us together in the first place. In the end, it wasn't about giving up her passion, but finding a balance that worked for both of us. It was a long and difficult journey, but we learned that love is worth fighting for, even when fame threatens to tear it apart.